How you doing, Sam?
Good, man. Thanks for having me, Andy. It's great to be here again.
Yeah, man, and great to have you back with us, man. How have you been, man?
Man, just so blessed. So blessed. Just in constant amazement at the favor and blessings that God has been pouring on my life. I truly don't deserve the blessings that I've experienced since the last time I was on the show. So no complaints on my end.
Okay, that's cool. That's good to hear, man. So tell us, man, what have you actually been up to? Because I mean, I think I'd seen you do the Extreme tour a while ago, but that was still quite recent, though. I mean, you were last on. I can't even remember, man. It was this year, maybe, but at the beginning of the year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I just got off in September. I spent a couple months with the Extreme Tour. That was an incredible experience, man. I went out with them a little bit last year and got a little taste of what they do, but I never left state with them. I just hit all their Idaho dates. And so this time I traveled across the country with them and really figured out what they were about. And man, I've got such a huge amount of respect for the guys putting that on and the artists involved. Because, music, I'll be the first to admit that as an artist and as a musician, I struggle with vanity, I struggle with ego. And most of the musicians and artists that I talk to do struggle with vanity and ego. But the Extreme Tour is really the first thing that I've really been involved with that is about the gospel. It's about the message. And there's no chance you're going to get famous out on the Extreme Tour. There's no real chance of building your platform because the emphasis is on just loving these unchurched and anti-churched kids and, just exposing them to the love of Jesus, man. And I truly feel like it's what Jesus called us to do. The closest thing that I can do with my music that aligns to what I feel Jesus called us to do, which is go out and, seek the lost and, just love on people in his name. So that's really what the Extreme Tour is all about.
So they literally just roll up on places like in like hoods and stuff like that, or what's the premise behind it? Do they have set places
parks,
they go to?
skate parks and basketball parks, just wherever, inner cities and smaller towns. And churches are usually who bring them in. There was a couple events that we did that weren't hosted by churches, but usually there's a host church that will bring the whole camp in, and really the church is just responsible for like housing and food. But yeah, anyway, churches bring us in, and then we go out and basically just hit these parks and give these kids a good time, and by the end of the night we're essentially evangelizing to them. And there's never what you would call an altar call, but there's a worship time at the end, which is essentially an altar call where we give people the opportunity to just kind of connect and talk with us more and pray with them and just show them a love that a lot of these kids really know nothing about. So
Wow, man, that sounds really epic, and like obviously those guys got to be on fire for the Lord to do that kind of thing. Because I guess you're rolling up in places where, what I mean, like you said, some places you weren't so much booked. You just kind of rolled up. It was a skate park. It was somewhere out local. You just rolled up. You set up. What do they have, like a mini stage or something?
Yeah, a lot of times, man, it's right there in the dirt or like at the top of a skate bowl or something. And yeah, a lot of times people are kind of antagonistic or hostile towards the gospel or the underlying message. We don't promote it as a gospel show in the beginning because we want to reach the people who would just be turned off by that word alone, really. So by the end of the night, it's obvious what it is, though. And first show I did was in Detroit, Michigan, which is kind of a notoriously impoverished community. And I went into it with these, preconceived notions of what it was going to be, and almost a little bit intimidated of the community and just out of my element. But by the time I finished, man, I really learned what walking with spiritual authority is and what it's about, because these people are hungry. Even the people who are antagonistic towards it, on a deeper level, they're all so hungry for what we have. And by the end of the tour, I was, man, if I wasn't, I tried to pray my way out of this tour. I kind of agreed to go on it about a year and a half ago. And by the time it was all confirmed, I was just in a different place in life where I was really comfortable with where I was at and not really trying to step out of my comfort zone. So I tried to get out of it. It was kind of like a reluctant participant by the time it came around, but by the time it was over, man, I'm ready to sign up every year and keep going back, because it renews and just refines and completely convicts us and sets us completely on fire for God. So yeah, it was just all around a great experience. Even the negativities and the struggles of it, because obviously there are those when you're on the road at any time. But even those things just served to, just in the bigger scheme of things, just, I don't know, man. It just blew my mind. It's hard to put into words and really articulate everything I experienced on that tour. But I would highly recommend it to any artist. You don't have to have like a big following or a big platform to be considered for the Extreme Tour. So for any artist that wants to experience something like that, I would recommend jumping in on that, because it's definitely an experience.
And who are the Extreme Tour kind of organizers? Who does it?
I know they're based out of Nashville, Tennessee. This cat named Angelo Gonzalez is the director. A gentleman named Tim, I can't think of his last name. He's the one that founded it. But I think it's underwritten by a church. I'm not 100% sure on. No, I know it's not underwritten by a church. A church helps them fundraise once a year, but there actually is no underwriting. So yeah, it's this guy. The guy kind of shared with me his testimony. He was a videographer trying to start a radio show back in the 80s, I think it was. They've been going for over 20 years now. And he was just exposed to this anti-church and unchurched community and tried to bring it to his church and say, hey, look, there's these people in our community who are lost and hurting. I guess a girl pulled a gun on him during a radio interview and threatened to kill herself. Whoa. And he was just really touched by it. So he went to his church like, what can we do for these people? And his church was just very dismissive about it. Like, you know what? Given our numbers and our growth and where we're at, they're an acceptable loss was essentially their answer. And he didn't feel right about that. You know, I think that just didn't sit well with him. So he started the Extreme Tour, and I think it's 27 years later now. They've been going strong, and they've had some like huge acts that have toured around with them, both before and after being, big mainstream acts. But yeah, they had these real humble beginnings. It actually started in Idaho, here where I'm based. They're based out of Nashville, Tennessee now, but they started in Idaho.
And whereabouts does it go when it's like, how long does it last for, and how many kind of states do you cover?
So here in the States, I think it was 5 months here in the States total. I was only on for 2 months, but they're actually, the director, Angelo, him and his wife just went to Paris, they went to Ireland. So it's very quickly become an international effort. And I'm not sure how big how well established they are outside of America, but here in America, yeah, I think they make an effort to hit every state, at least a couple cities in every state. And it really just depends on the call of the churches, because, again, it's largely dependent on, people from these communities, coordinators from these communities reaching out and bringing in the Extreme Tour. So I know it's just been growing and growing and growing. But yeah, I can't give you an exact number. What I was involved in, it's 3 shows a week. So how it works, they roll into these towns and communities, and they spend the first night in these communities just out kind of, I guess you could call it evangelizing, but it's not really evangelizing. I guess it's more of like hyping the show, promoting the show, and just trying to connect with the community and see where the needs are and, gain some rapport with the community, so that then the following night, hopefully these people show up and there's already some established kind of connection there, and they're more receptive to what we have to say. But then, yeah, so the second night we put on the event, and then we roll out of town the next day. So there's, sometimes some community work, working at the shelters and just kind of helping out if there's more need in the community. So, yeah, I mean, even more than a music tour, man, it's kind of like a mission, and every year it's grown and grown and grown. I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off on a tangent with my answer there.
Yeah, man, but that's cool, man. It sounds like a dope thing, man. I definitely want to find out more about that myself, man. But anyway, man, we've got to crack on, man, because we're here to showcase your album.
Yeah, it just dropped on October 9th, and it's been pretty well received. It's doing all right for itself so far.
All right, man. So I want to get into the first track that we got for you tonight. So I'll let you introduce it, man. It's a Long Way Back.
Yeah, Long Way Back, man. This was actually one of the first joints I wrote for that album, and I wrote it for kind of a friend of mine. A lot of songs in this album are kind of written on behalf of just people in my life and struggles that I've kind of sat on the sidelines and watched. So yeah, Long Way Back, man. That's the first track on my LP, DEATHPROOF.